Previously on Total Death Edition.
Spoilers, there's one level that is literally impossible, but that's for next time.
And this time, let the games begin. Welcome back to Total Death Edition, the mod that increases the difficulty of Plants vs Zombies by about 8 times and changes all plants, zombies, and levels. I suggest watching previous parts first if you haven't already. This time, we begin on level 6-5, taking a short detour from the Zen Garden and returning to nighttime. Instead of a conveyor belt level, this is a level with a special gimmick. Our sun gets reset to 0 every 10 seconds or so. Now this just means we should spend our sun as soon as we get it, because it could otherwise go to waste, but I didn't do that in the early game because I didn't even notice my sun getting taken away until later on. That would be a problem for us if this level was actually hard. The whole level has just screen door zombies and bungee zombies. As you may expect, that is not a very threatening lineup, and it does not take much to defend. But if you were paying attention, you'd have noticed that Giga Gargantuars are in the level, which would be a problem for us again if the first wave they can show up wasn't the final wave of the level. So the entire level is just a build up to the final wave. Well, technically the same could be said for every other level, but you know what I mean. Now you see, I didn't even think the final wave would be a problem since I was just going to use lawnmowers to beat the Giga Gargantuars. Yes, they do have much faster movement speed now and also cannot be slowed down by blowers, and also smash our plants in a 3x1 area just like the normal Gargantuars, but thankfully, lawnmowers can still take them out, and they're not immune to ice shrooms, so we can still stall them out for a while even if we can't use blower. I mean, this is no big deal. We'll just let our lawnmowers go against the rest of the zombies now, and that's gotta be an easy win for us.
Bye, have a great time!
Okay, so instead of bringing Flower Pot as a flex that I can beat the level using only 9 slots, this time I'm using Puff Shrooms for obvious reasons. Now, once we hit the final wave, yes, our defense will still get completely ravished by the Giga Gargantuars, but this time we have Puff Shrooms to defend off whatever is left after we sacrifice all the lawnmowers, which is precisely just one Hypno Cone zombie, and yeah, we can defend that. So yeah, with that mishap out of the way, it's time to move on to level 6-6, which as you can see, we're taking another detour back to our backyard, and
oh no!
With the return of jalapeno zombies, I have no idea why I even decided to try using a loadout with attacking plants after what happened in level 6-4, but you know, I did, because yeah, I'm not that smart, contrary to what you may think. But this was actually kinda useful because I made an accidental discovery, which is that starfish shoot slower when they're placed on the water. If you look very carefully, you can see that the starfruit on the ground is shooting twice as often as the starfruit in the water, even if the animation doesn't reflect that. That's a pretty strange interaction. Now, as for how long this setup even gets to survive against the jalapeno zombies, let's play a quick game before I show you guys what happens. Make your guess for how long you think we will survive before we lose. Is it A, 1 minute, B, 25 seconds, C, 40 seconds, or D, 2 minutes? Made your guess? Alright, let's play the video. Okay. No. Please kill it. Okay, nice. Oh my god. Okay. Oh my god, we couldn't kill this in time. Oh my god, no. Oh my god. Nope, it's already happening. Yup, okay. Did we lose already? I think we lost already to the pole vaulter. Yep, we absolutely did. Alright. And for some reason, I decided to use Starfruits and Free Peters in my next run again. Instead of losing to a bungee ambush in 25 seconds, this time our defense gets obliterated by the jalapeno zombies. This is a certified total death moment. Now, I'm going to be honest here, the levels from here on out only get more difficult. I may or may not have looked up the solution to these levels in advance to avoid getting stuck for the next few hours, and apparently this is the only loadout that had beaten this level before, Cattails with instant kills and Madness Shroom. The early game is self-explanatory with the strategy when we have cattails, because them alone just take out all the weak zombies. But when the first flag comes is where this gets a whole lot more complicated. Tons of dolphin riders mean we'll have to tangle kelp each and every one of them to maximize our cattails up uptime on dealing with the fast zombies on the ground. But even if we perfectly defend off all the Dolphin Riders with Tango Kelps, there's only a small chance that they live. Thanks to Jalapeno Zombies, half our cattails get wiped instantly before it even went into the water. How nice! Almost half our setup is dead after just one wave, and things only get worse, so I quickly replace my sunflowers and madness shrooms to ensure we have enough of them to stop incoming ladder zombies. We then have to keep spending Blover whenever it's off cooldown, as we need to slow down all the pole vaulters and pogo zombies enough for our cattails to take them out, because without the slowing effect, we are dead toast. Now, it seems like this is yet another failed attempt, but with enough Blover stalling and time, we can eventually plant Doomshroom to wipe out any of the remaining zombies and empty out the field. Then, we just need to repeat this process a few more times to beat the level. Sounds pretty easy on paper, but since I'm a human, I can't make perfect plays in every situation, which is exactly why I didn't even notice the pole vaulters jumping into our house until it was too late already. And if we manage to somehow survive all the way to the second flag, it doesn't take long for Jalapeno Zombies to show up again at the second flag and start obliterating all our plants. There's nothing I can really do to prevent their explosions, because insta-killing them will just get the next wave sent quicker, and honestly, our best way to deal with them is just stalling out the level as much as possible. Eventually, I ran out of magnet shrooms, so I just died to the ladder zombies, and it was pretty much inevitable at this point. To beat this level, we're going to need to substantially improve our strategy. For starters, just a few magnet shrooms like this will not be enough against enraged ladder zombies, so I'm getting more of them placed down ASAP. But more importantly, we have to protect what we already have, since planting protection is almost always cheaper than rebuying defense. This time, I actually protect my cattails by taking out Jalapeno Zombies early instead of letting them get incinerated. Plus, I didn't utilize Cherry Bomb properly in the last run. Instead, I now recognize a threatening cluster of zombies in free lanes as soon as they show up and instantly detonate them before they even cause any trouble. And we can neutralize some of the waves much more efficiently than waiting for Doomshroom to come back. With all my plays being more efficient and me giving more focus to this attempt, I managed to make it past the first to second flag without suffering any major losses. But come the second flag is where it all goes to hell, because I literally spent my Doomshroom right before this wave. And now we have literally nothing to defend ourselves against the flag zombie, and it starts spawning bungee ambushes. I somehow managed to not instantly die from them with my luck, and then somehow after the Jalapeno Zombies incinerated half the defense, I managed to stay alive against a ladder zombie by reacting quick enough to defend against it. By a freaking miracle, we were able to make it all the way to our next Doomshroom to clear out this monstrous horde of zombies. But things only start getting worse from here on out, because more and more Jalapeno Zombies start getting sent every wave, which sometimes up to 3 of them can come in one wave and destroy half of what we have, but we persist. We can only barely keep surviving for so much longer until we lose the last of our lawnmowers to help clear out some of the zombies. Now, it's looking really bad for us because we have almost nothing remaining on the ground and we're playing such a dangerous game, but with a miracle again. The next wave only had one ladder zombie and we stopped it with the only magnet shroom we had left. And somehow, someway, I managed to survive all of that, and now we're on the penultimate wave of the level. This is truly a miracle. I said it twice already, but yes, it is a miracle, because our defense was basically never enough to survive any of the incoming threats, but with a lot of determination. The blowers are just about enough to take out the rest of the zombies, and we approach the final wave. Now, this is when I somehow messed this up by misplacing my coffee bean on top of a Tango Kelp instead of my Doomshroom. But it's not all over yet. One bungee ambush spawns, and it doesn't make anything threatening. Another bungee ambush spawns, and this time it's an enraged ladder zombie that we managed to stop with our magnet shroom before it can take us out. And a third bungee ambush spawns. This time, it's a pole vaulter in the water. It leaps over a lily pad. I try to slow it down using a blower, but it's no use to stopping it. But with a glimmer of hope left, which is that our cattails will be able to take it out before it enters the house, and we somehow managed to kill it. And then we also stop this fourth bungee ambush somehow using a blower and finally kill the flag zombie. But not before it spawns a fifth bungee ambush, which now makes a gargantuar in the top lane, but we can stop everything else, and with the little sun we have, I start planting sunflowers again. I plant my blower to slow those zombies down, and somehow everything else is still fine. And we managed to survive through probably what is the craziest sequence of events I've had in all my years playing this game. And there's only one gargantuar left. And that concludes level 6-6. Absolute insanity. I have no words for the insanity that is the final wave, and our win is most certainly undeserved here after I misplanted my coffee bean. What a run that was. After that roller coaster, it's time for level 6-7, and this level is the most difficult level I've ever shown. So I mean, surely, this can't be as difficult as what we've just went through, which is what I thought initially, even though I was quite literally warned against playing this mod, knowing fully well other players have already played this level and said it was impossible to beat. Yes, it's literally impossible. As a quick showcase for how bad this level is, let me show you how well the Free Peter Starfruit combo fares in this level, which has Jack-in-the-Box, Ladder, Digger, and Gatling P zombies. So you see, it's basically impossible to counter Digger zombies without mana shrooms because they keep spawning bucketheads periodically. But you know, enraged ladder zombies can create a whole line of ladders for us to take down. Those ladders distract our mana shrooms, so much so it becomes impossible to target the Digger zombies, and they will quickly run us over as the buckethead zombies get spawned right on top of our plants and eat through our defenses, and we quickly lose 2 of our lawnmowers just like that. And this problem only worsens, as some of our mana shrooms get taken out by the previous Digger zombies, destabilizing our entire defense and letting the next wave of ladder zombies eat away at our mana shrooms. This leads to a rapid downfall, as our mana shrooms simply cannot handle this much pressure from this many metallic zombies at once. And without mana shrooms, it is game over since we can't do anything about the Jack-in-the-Box zombies or the Digger zombies, and the Gatling P zombies will promptly kill out the remaining plants to ensure our defeat. Now, in case you thought losing there was just because of a skill issue, I decided to play this level about 20 more times to show you guys how precisely impossible this level was to beat. First up on the chopping block is the repeater Torchwood strategy that for some reason, people really like suggesting me to use. I'm gonna be honest, I was never a fan of Torchwood even in the original game. This setup doesn't even do enough damage to kill off the Jack-in-the-Box zombies in time, so we don't even survive a few waves past the first flag because our walls get blown up and it's game over from there. Next up, we have Free Peters and Starfruits but with Ice Shroom instead of Doom Shroom. Spoilers, Ice Shroom doesn't solve any of our problems because it's just a worse version of Doom Shroom that doesn't take out Digger zombies, so it makes us lose even faster, but this makes it further than the garbage ass Repeaters. But we can't forget about Chompers if we are thinking about a good, high single target DPS plant. They actually fared much better than the Repeaters thanks to their space efficiency and also higher damage, so now this makes enough space for 2 columns of mana shrooms, which is enough to deal with all the metallic zombies. However, having enough space doesn't matter if we can't protect our mana shrooms. Even with both walnuts and pumpkins, this is insufficient defense against the Gatling P zombies. Simply too many of them come at once and it's too much pressure for us to withstand. Once we can't keep our entire 2 columns of mana shrooms alive, there's no hope of surviving even just the immediate wave due to the punishing nature of the Digger zombies. We lose 2 lawnmowers just like that. And just look at this next wave here. 2 ladder zombies, 4 Jack-in-the-Box zombies, and 4 Digger zombies. We needed 10 magna shrooms to defend that, but Gatling P zombies make that impossible to maintain because they are constantly shooting down all our plants. Just remember that we were only able to survive in previous levels against Gatling P zombies because we were able to sacrifice 2 lanes of space to protect only 3 lanes of our defense. But here, we don't have that choice because we need the space to plant magna shrooms and chompers, and like, what am I supposed to do here? Plant Doom Shrooms and Bloversall? That would never work against the fast zombies in this level like the ladder zombies or ghost bucketheads. Now I'm sure you're not convinced yet, but I decided to test basically every combination of wall plants to see if there was a possibility that we could even survive the Gatling P zombies. I even tried Garlic as a cheap and fast cooldown wall plant, but yeah, no surprises here. They suck because they don't even have a whole lot of health to tank against the Gatling P zombies in the first place. I even tried using Twin Sunflower to make more sun, so I could spam cheap plants like Sunflowers as chump blockers, which kind of solved our issue with running out of defensive plants against Gatling P zombies, but did not solve our problem against enraged ladder zombies that create an infinite number of distractions. Digger zombies still sneak through this defense, and that's game. I tried my best to replant as many mana shrooms as I could, and I still lost to the enraged ladder zombies. And since I was still not convinced that this level would be impossible to beat normally, I tried Starfruits in place of Chompers to see how they stack up. The only real advantage of Starfruits is that they can kill Digger zombies that make it past our mana shrooms, but realistically speaking, if all our mana shrooms are inactive, it usually means that we are on the verge of losing already anyways. We clearly cannot survive for much longer against the Gatling P zombies without walnuts, and there is no real benefit that Starfruits give compared to Chompers. And in case you were wondering, I also tried every loadout multiple times before going ahead and giving up on them. The conclusion is, there does not exist a loadout that is sufficient to defend off Gatling P zombies and Digger zombies simultaneously. We either have not enough damage or we don't have enough mana shrooms. Unfortunately, as previous people who have attempted this level warned, it is impossible to beat this level legitimately. But just because it has never been beaten legitimately before doesn't mean it hasn't been beaten using task before, which is just a fancier way of saying safe scumming and RNG manipulation. The loadout is pretty specific as there has only been one recorded video in the history of mankind of someone even beating this level, which is this right here, and it seems like an odd combination of plants with giant walnut, squash, and gloom shroom. But every plant in this loadout is actually extremely important, and without every single plant, this level is unbeatable. So the main idea is that Gloomshroom can beat this level because it has high damage, infinite pierce, and hence infinite damage output against an infinitely large group of zombies. However, it's obviously not that simple, because the main reason why I didn't even bother using Gloomshroom in the first place are these guys, the Ender Hypno Coneheads. I mean, it's basically impossible not to lose your Gloomshroom to them because we only start attacking it at a close range. Now this run was just in particular extremely unlucky because it proceeded to kill the rest of my entire lane, so I had to restart. Now the whole gist of this loadout is that we can plant our Gloomshroom on the 8th column and therefore eliminate the Gatling P zombies so quickly that we won't have to repair our wall plants before the level ends. We're still using Magneshrooms to counter Dagar zombies for obvious reasons, but the strangest plant is the Giant Walnut, which we're using here just because ladder zombies cannot climb over them. Here's the problem. We still don't have a way to beat Ender Hypno Coneheads. Just one of them is enough to decimate an entire lane of defense. So tough luck, right? Just restart and try again until we don't die to them? Is that really going to be our plan? Well, we have to do some RNG manipulation to beat this level. By some, I mean every single wave. You've never seen this, but we're literally safe scumming even the first wave of the level because it's that important. We can't afford to make a single mistake or lose a single Gloomshroom. So this is what it has come to. And with Ender Coneheads out of the picture by us simply safe scumming out of the situation, that means we finally have all the connecting pieces to solve this level. Now, most of the gameplay is actually just me popping in and out of the game. So instead of commentating, I saw an Ender Hypno Conehead, so I backed out to reload my save over this gameplay, allow me to illustrate how ridiculous this run is if it were real. What are even the chances that you could get this lucky in a real game where 0 Ender Hypno Coneheads spawn for the whole level? Well, it takes a lot of maths to figure that out, so buckle up. First of which, we need to talk about how often an Ender Hypno Conehead spawns. The chance of a Conehead zombie becoming an Ender Conehead is 25%, and the chance of a Conehead zombie becoming a Hypno Conehead is also 25%. These events are both independent of each other, meaning that one happening does not influence the other. Hence, the probability of them both happening at the same time is 25% multiplied by 25%, which is 6.25% or 1 in 16. That's how likely it is for any Conehead zombie to spawn in as an Ender Hypno Conehead. Now, the difficult part comes in figuring out how many Coneheads spawn throughout a single level, because this number changes every single time we restart the level. Every single level has a different wave generation, so I can only take an average of how many Conehead zombies spawn on average. Now, how do I even know that? Well, it's time to go really technical and talk about how often each different zombie spawns. Each zombie in Plants vs Zombies has a basic equivalent. I've covered this in the past. Basics have 1 basic equivalent, Coneheads have 2 basic equivalent, but for the purposes of this maps problem, we only care about the fact that Coneheads are 2 basic equivalent. Now we need to talk about how waves have a dedicated amount of wave points. Each wave can only consist of a combination of zombies that has a total basic equivalent equal to the wave points it has. So a wave with 2 wave points can only either spawn 2 basic zombies or 1 Conehead zombie. However, this isn't important just yet because we also need to know how often a Conehead zombie will spawn in proportion to all the other zombies in this level. This is quite straightforward before the first flag, as only basic zombies and Conehead zombies can even spawn during this time. They each have a same spawning density value, meaning every wave before the first flag will have approximately the same basic equivalent dedicated towards spawning basic zombies and Conehead zombies evenly split. Now in the base game, the amount of basic equivalents every wave has is pretty straightforward. Every 3 waves, the total basic equivalent spawn in a wave is increased by 1, and if it's a flag, then it will have 2.5x more basic equivalents. In the TD mod, since the spawn rate is increased 8-fold, we can then deduce that there is a total of 144 basic equivalent worth of zombies before the first flag. Since on average, these wave points are evenly split amongst basics and Coneheads before the first flag, we'll say 72 basic equivalent is dedicated to spawning Conehead zombies, and hence an average of 36 Conehead zombies will spawn before the first flag comes. However, things change when it's past the first flag, as 4 more different zombies can spawn, and so the spawn rate of Conehead zombies changes. Here are their spawning density values on the screen for this level in particular. If we put 3,800 over all these spawning density values added together, we can find out that approximately 32.5% of wave points every wave after the first flag will be dedicated to spawning Conehead zombies on average. Now, we simply need to find the total number of wave points there are in every wave between the first flag and final wave inclusive. Subtract 3 wave points because there are 3 guaranteed flag zombies, Then multiply that number by 32.5% to find how many basic equivalents are dedicated to spawning coneheads for these waves, then divide by 2 again because each conehead zombie takes up 2 wave points to spawn, add that number to the total number of conehead zombies on average before the first flag, we finally have our total average of 266.9 conehead zombies spawning in level 6-7. We'll round to a full number to estimate that an average of 267 conehead zombies spawn in an average attempt of 6-7. Then, by using the binomial distribution formula, where we run 267 trials of events with a 6.25% success rate, we can find that the chances of 0 successes are approximately 0.000003285%, or rather, 1 in 30,455,306.84. Just to put this into perspective, you have a 200,000% better chance of getting struck by lightning in your lifetime than getting this lucky in your run. So kids, don't try this level at home, because you will never end up beating it in your lifetime. And with a whole lot of saves coming, and a lot of pain, we finally have beaten level 6-7. Took us quite a lot of luck, but still not as extreme as Dream's luck, as he was still 2 quadrillion times more lucky than this totally legit run. Swiftly moving on. Now it's time for level 6-8, where we take yet another detour back to our backyard. And oh god, this is not good. So the first strategy I tried here was Melon Pult Spam, simply because it's a good counter against Snorkel zombies which are in this level. But to be fair, the real MVPs were the cattails because they help defend off football zombies really well with their high single target DPS. And I said first strategy, so you already know we're not going to beat the level first try. The main issue with Melon Pults is they can't deal with football zombies and pogo zombies simultaneously. Football zombies have extremely high hit points, meaning it takes quite a while to whittle them down. This lets any pogo zombies just bounce to the front, while the football zombie is tanking all the hits and force us to dig up our plants. This only gets worse wave after wave, because we can't even kill the football zombies from the previous wave before more of them come, making it increasingly difficult to defend off. And we lost basically half our sunflowers just like that. Heck, I wasn't even able to defend off the football zombies in the first lane here because Melon Pults are so bad in single target DPS. Now mixing newspaper zombies as well, we've got ourselves a disaster class. Because of the newspaper zombies' insane speed, all the melon projectiles literally whiff. It causes us the game on the spot just like that. And after that disaster of Melon Pults, I decided to switch it up with Repeaters and Chompers. Chompers obviously are better than Melon Pults at dealing with football zombies because of their high single target damage. They also take out newspaper zombies very quickly and can't miss their shots like Melon Pults, so this was an obvious upgrade from our previous setup. However, the problems begin again when Gargantuars show up. If you remember, Imps now deal infinite damage every bite, so they instantly kill our Chompers if they happen to land on top of them. Chompers are also very expensive plants, so it's pretty difficult to replace them, and we quickly run out of sun. It's practically impossible for me to make enough sun again to rebuild my defense at this point, so I just let myself get run over by the pogo zombies. So, what would be the problem if we use Gloomshroom this time? It's not like we have to deal with Gatling Pea zombies, so we can just plant them towards the back of the lawn and let it take care of business. So, first of which, we already know that the Gloomshroom strategy when paired with blowover stalling is amazing at dealing with pogo zombies and football zombies, so they are certainly not a problem for us. But the main issue is once again, the damn newspaper zombies. These guys do so much damage so quickly that our plants literally die before the Gloomshrooms even have the time to react and start firing their shots. This is absolutely detrimental and forces us to constantly replace our Gloomshrooms throughout the level. As you may expect, this does not go very well for us. There's no way to plant Gloomshrooms quick enough to repair our defense, and we are in absolute shambles by the time Gargantuars come. Not only so, but we also have the same insta-killing imps that get thrown to the back of our defense that one-shot all our fume troops, which handily clears the way for newspaper zombies to enter our house unscathed. Absolutely amazing level design right here if you ask me. I didn't want to do it for you guys, because I thought there would be something different that would make this level possible, but unfortunately, between pogos, footballs, newspapers, and Gargantuars, there's only one common solution to deal with all of them, which is to use the same setup we had just used in level 6-6. Now, obviously this is slightly different because we don't need Coffee Bean for our mushrooms, so I picked Planturn instead for their on-death explosion. Now, I thought Planturn would work against Snorkel zombies, but apparently not, because Planturns don't even get the chance to explode before being vaporized. They're kinda useless in the grand scheme of things because we can't use it against Gargantuars either. Even with Planturn doing virtually nothing to help us, this setup still performed better than any other strategy with a main attacking plant. By the time it was the second flag, our defense was still perfectly intact. But problems arose close to the end of the level. With many newspaper zombies and no wall plants to stop them aside from Planturn, it was clear that this strategy was very prone to them, and an instant kill would almost be mandatory for each and every one of them. Without an instant kill off cooldown, it is certainly game over if we don't have a lawnmower as a failsafe either. We're going to have to modify this loadout slightly to counter newspaper zombies better. Hence the obvious switch from Planturn to Walnut, thanks to Walnut's buff in this mod to have a fast cooldown. That will certainly help against newspaper zombies, but I want to show you this atrocious streak of luck I had right here that I have literally never seen before. Gotta keep all our instant kills off cooldown, I think. Are you kidding me? Bro, how? Welcome to RNG the game, I guess. How wonderful was it to have 3 cattails killed just like that? What a zombie. Having 3 fewer cattails was absolutely detrimental to our defense. We didn't even manage to survive the pogo zombies in this run just waves after the first flag. Nonetheless, I'm still impressed I made it to the second flag before dying to a newspaper zombie, but it was pretty obvious I wasn't going to make it very far when the Enterhypno cone had just vaporized 3 cattails. Obviously, I had to try this loadout again, but with a healthy amount of cattails this time around, we didn't struggle much until the zombie spam that is the second flag and onwards. With walnuts, they helped a ton with newspaper zombies as they were now able to stop them in place and let our cattails take them out in time. And of course, its fast cooldown also really helped us out. That's not to say that the level wasn't tough, because there were still a few mishaps here and there, especially against Norco zombies. When I'm a bit careless, I would accidentally let a cattail get killed. But ultimately, this level wasn't nearly as bad as the previous level thanks to the power of cattails and their high single target damage. The thumb strategy lives on in the TD mod in the form of cattail spam as a supporting plant and Magneshroom as its newest addition to our arsenal. Cattails and Magneshrooms may just be the best plants in this mod as they have been useful in almost every single level. But that's it for this episode. Next time, we will finish off World 6, which might be the most intense episode yet as it will contain levels that are even more difficult. If you want to support me as a content creator, click the link in the description to join as a channel member, and as per usual, thank you channel members for supporting the channel, but for now, have a great day, and I'll see you all next time.